You've been in politics way longer than I have. When did you start noticing this shift happening and the left losing their minds?
That's tough. I mean, I guess in the last 4 or 5 years, I would see positions that were out there on the left, and I would just dismiss them because I thought that's nonsense. No one I know really would believe that or do that. Like the first time I remember hearing the phrase dead white men and that culture created by dead white men, or the phrase toxic masculinity. I would just think, well, that's ridiculous. Those are ridiculous concepts. You know, how can you possibly take seriously dismissing great works of art, masterpieces, our whole cultural heritage because of the gender and race of the person who did it? That's racism and that's sexism, obviously. And it's also self-destructive. And as a mom of a man and a stepmom of a 11-year-old future man, I really, object to this phrase toxic masculinity or nonsensical statements about like male sexuality, heterosexuality being innately, abusive or exploitive. Those are very damaging things to say to young men and boys. Yes. And they're also just destructive because it doesn't have to be that way. And it, where's love and where's, this ideal of people finding each other? If they happen to be heterosexual, that shouldn't be any, less valid than any other sexuality that people want to be. But I didn't take those seriously. But once, victory's so bad for us on the left, it's so toxic for us to win, because once we won, the presidency and the House, it was like a scary Marxist flood that was like latent and dormant, very much influenced by the CCP. I am convinced, and the World Economic Forum and other bad actors, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But this latent Marxist, Stalinist, aggressive, violent, coercive flood of nonsense just erupted, and now people on the left have no qualms about being as coercive and oppressive as they want to be.
I like posting on. I got a lot of Occupy Wall Street people who follow me, and I like posting on. They'll post things like Trump has been raided by the feds. They'll laugh with smiley faces, and I'll be like, my response to them is always, I'm glad that you finally came around to supporting the feds and the federal government.
Right.
It took you a long time to realize they were the good guys.
Absolutely.
And then their response is like, well, I mean,
it's different.
Hey, keep cheering them on, man. Keep cheering them on, because we know where this goes.
When did they stop having like the Kantian imperative of it has to be consistent? If you don't want them to shut you down and censor you can't censor Project Veritas. You can't. Right. If you don't want them to come for your president, you can't go for their president. Why don't they see that?
Would you say that they feel like they have the moral high ground? That totally. The things that Project Veritas are doing, while they may be structurally similar, it's another form of censorship to oppress them, it's worth oppressing because they are promoting the wrong things.
Well, you're 1,000% right. And it's, again, super scary because on the left, there's been this mission creep of language, increasingly, you know what I'm going to say, right?
Oh, I know it.
Yeah, increasingly identifying thoughts as violence or speech as incitement, such that and January 6th was a big part of this, such that I think the left really feels like the people who disagree with them are so dangerous and all white supremacist, and the things they think are so innately violent. Even
we
if
have
they
to
just
cut
disagree,
it off before the thought
exactly.
even gets there. We can't expose any of this material to anyone because they might indoctrinate someone else, aka get them to think about an issue in a way that we don't believe in.
But absolutely. And sorry.
Is the fear that if Trump becomes president, he's going to make America like a militocracy? Is he's gonna make it totalitarian? Because they're using the FBI to kick down doors right now. What are they afraid is gonna happen?
I mean,
they're afraid someone's gonna kick their door down.
Yeah, they're afraid.
We're both from New York. So we both know.
It's the Northeast over here.
Right. So truly the left believes, and I used to believe a lot of this. I really did, because they lie to us. Legacy media lies to us, and liberal media lies to us. I'm not saying the right is perfect or doesn't distort, but these are the kinds of things the left truly believes, that if Trump were elected or there was another right-wing or conservative president, it would be like Margaret Atwood's
Handmaid's
Tale for women.
The one reference we can't get over as a society.
Harry Potter.
Right. And that every conservative is racist. Every conservative is homophobic, and that it would be kind of a Bible-based reactionary America in which religious minorities would be quashed, in which there would be no freedom to love. There would be a fossil fuel orgy leading to the demise of the planet in a matter of weeks. Is this fair? I mean, is there more you want to add? That women would be forced to conceive and raise children, that they didn't want or that they couldn't take care of. And there's some truth to these concerns, but in a functioning civil society, you talk these things out and you create policies that meet in the middle.
I don't believe them, because in any they may actually have broken worldviews that I can believe, but this idea that the right is simultaneously advancing fascism while trying to give you guns makes no sense. They're like, quick, everybody have any gun. I argued that the Second Amendment does cover nuclear weapons. Not that it should cover nuclear weapons. Whoa. But during the time of the Founding Fathers, you could have a privateer, you could have a frigate, you could have grape shot, you could have full, a plethora of cannons. The same armaments the government had. That never changed. So my point was, perhaps people would agree you should not allow this, and we would need to make that amendment. They all got really angry that I would bring it up. My point here
Why
is...
were they angry, if you don't mind my asking?
Well, they called me like a wingnut arguing that people should have nuclear weapons.
People misinterpret it.
Because it sounds terrifying.
They didn't misinterpret it. Media Matters cut my quote off.
You said people should have nuclear weapons according to the Second Amendment. They thought he meant, I think morally people should have nuclear weapons. Where he was saying, no, legally, according to the rule right now, people should be able to.
But just my point right now is, I'll tell you a story. I was in Berkeley during the battle for Berkeley when all the Antifa were fighting the Trump supporters. And I actually got to talk to an Antifa guy after everything was calming down, because I was just standing there And this guy said, I asked this Antifa guy, what happened? Mm-hmm. And he said, they came up and they punched my friend. And then we started talking, and he told me that he brought a knife, that he was going to defend himself. And then he said, and I asked him why, and he said, because these are fascists, man. They want to kill people. Mm-hmm. And I said, you think all of those people in that park are fascists right there? And he's like, yeah, dude, they're all fascists. Mm-hmm. And I said, do you think that those people in that park want to defend the Second Amendment? And he was like, well, yeah, of course. The right always talking about guns. And I was like, do you think that they would then care if you had guns? Like, no. I'm like, so you think they're fascists, but they want you to have guns.
Right.
And he was like, And I'm like, yeah, I don't get your logic. There's no logic there. It's just tribalism.
Right. It is, but also a horrible thing has happened in the last 10 or 15 years in America in which these two groups never get to talk to each other. And I think social media has really escalated that, because the algorithm makes sure that you only...
you're fed further and further to one side of the spectrum or the other.
Right.
There is a way, you can see a YouTube video with someone you don't agree with. Back in the day, you could make a video response, and we had incredible conversations in 2007. Google's taken away the video response mechanic oddly, but
But I want to respond. I mean, the meme is that Ben Shapiro is screaming, "Debate me!" Like, people on the right are adamantly saying, come have the conversation. I mean, we had Larry Elder on this show, and he was talking about how he's invited all of these people, and they won't come and talk to him.
We talked about this on the way up, Tim. I run into this as an editor of Daily Cloud, and it breaks my heart. We on the left, or we liberals, I'll say, we're supposed to be the ones who believe in free speech. Remember the free speech movement in Berkeley? Yep. That was led by the left. Mario Savio was on the left. We're supposed to believe in, not believe in censorship. Allen Ginsberg, like Lady Chatterley's Lover. These are liberals. But now... I'll have people will send me right-leaning op-eds, and I'll reach out to all of my remaining liberal contacts, or just put out the word. We go to NARAL and say, will you please tell us, why this pro-life op-ed is wrong, write your own op-ed, and they won't do it. Or we'll go to the green advocates and say, tell us why this pro-fossil fuel op-ed is wrong, and they won't do it. They'll just say, you shouldn't run that material. I'm not going to appear in a document where other people who hold these views appear.
I'll give a shout out to Jacobin. Are you familiar with Jacobin magazine?
I am.
They're pro-free speech.
Good for them.
I've consistently seen articles from them where they say outright we should not tolerate the censorship and things like that. And I'm like, hey man, look, I don't got to agree with the socialist. If we agree on respecting each other's right to speak, then I'll take what I can get. Right now, you've got, following the FBI raids, a bunch of MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I guess she's selling merch. I'm not entirely sure, but it says defund the FBI. Mm-hmm. Crowder has called for something similar. The Washington Post ran a story saying the right now wants to defund law enforcement. and leftists are laughing. And I'm like, bro, this was your position. Shouldn't you be cheering? Shouldn't you be like, we're winning?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened? What happened is that their opponents are getting the punishment. Yeah. And they enjoy it.
Another problem is that, like, censorship's important in the right context. You don't want to allow people to make imminent threats of violence. It's illegal under the First Amendment.
It's already illegal.
Yeah, and it's illegal as a form of censorship.
Right.
And pictures of children.
Yeah, stuff like that. You censor that stuff. But corporations now are in control of the public square with Alphabet and Meta and things like that, where they can more or less terminate your access to the masses. And the law has yet to catch up to that. I don't think that private companies should be overriding the First Amendment in the United States. So I advocate that we free the software code of large social networks so that other people can spin up networks that can interoperate with them, and it will
seize the means of production.
Free the means of production.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.